Top 10 gemstones that lost their value overnight. Some gemstones sparkled like miracles. Others were worshipped like sacred relics. And some were lies, wrapped in brilliance, cut into trust, and sold as truth. They didn't sit in discount bins. They stood in museum cases. They were worn by royalty. They were auctioned for six figures and declared rare by experts. They were blessed with certificates and admired under glass. But what if the brilliance was manufactured? What if the rarity was scripted? What if millions of dollars were poured into stories? Not stones. From a red feldspar with no mine, to rubies held together by glass, to diamonds that collapsed under the weight of laboratory perfection. These weren't fakes. They were once real and valuable until the illusion cracked. This is a story of markets that believed too quickly, of buyers who never asked, and of stones that lost not their beauty, but their worth. Welcome to the top 10 gemstones that lost their value overnight, and the truths the gem world tried to bury. Remember to press and hold the like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th. Blue Zircon, the spark that burned too clean. Some stones whisper of age, of volcanic sleep, tectonic pressure, and secrets buried in the ancient crust. And then, there was Blue Zircon, a stone that didn't whisper. It shouted. Its brilliance cut through light with near diamond sharpness. Its color, electric, tropical, surreal, looked like something that belonged in a dream, not a mine. For decades, it flew under the radar. Then suddenly, it was everywhere. Jewelry channels called it the best-kept secret in colored gems. Retailers praised its fire. Collectors raced to secure clean, radiant specimens. In the span of just 2 or 3 seasons, prices surged, not for historical value or scarcity, but for how shockingly beautiful the stone looked on screen. But beauty, when too perfect, often comes with a catch. The secret was heat. Natural zircon is usually yellow, brown, or greenish. But with controlled high-temperature treatment, up to 1,000 degrees Celsius, a pale, clouded crystal transforms. The structure rearranges, the impurities fade, and in place of warmth comes ice, sky blue, glacier sharp, too clean to be chance. The industry called it an enhancement, but the market didn't realize, until too late, that this enhancement came with a cost. Once treated, the gem becomes unstable, prone to breakage, sensitive to light. A stone of fire, yes, but one that burns out. Then came confusion. Unaware of the distinction, jewelry buyers began mistaking blue zircon for cubic zirconia, a cheap diamond simulant with a nearly identical name. Sales slipped, reputations blurred. The gem that once dazzled in TV lights was now seen as synthetic, suspicious, or simply forgettable. The fall was not gradual, it was instant. 1 year, a gemstone on the rise. The next, overproduced, overtreated, and overlooked. Retailers slashed prices by half. Wholesalers dropped it from catalogs. Collectors removed it from rotation. And gemological institutions began issuing disclaimers. Color origin, heat treated, not stable under prolonged light. A few still held on to untreated stones. Rare, honey-colored, ancient. But the version that once surged with artificial brilliance, its value vanished like steam from the furnace that birthed it. No fraud, no scandal, only a lesson that some stones, when forced to shine too brightly, burn themselves out. Blue Zircon, the spark that proved too clean to last. Ranked 9th, natural pearls. The legacy that drowned in silence. Before oil, before diamonds, before the concept of carats ruled global trade, there were pearls, not formed in fire but in silence, not mined but harvested from pain, the defense mechanism of a wounded mollusk. Each one took years. Most were never found, and the few that were changed hands like currency soaked in salt and secrecy. Across the Arabian Gulf, Ceylon's waters, and India's coastlines, men dove blind, no tanks, no light, for a shimmer that might not even exist. They surfaced breathlessly, sometimes bleeding, Sometimes holding a single orb could ransom a kingdom. Natural pearls were not just beautiful, they were brutal, and that brutality gave them worth. For centuries, the world paid no price for them. Marie Antoinette wore them. Mughal emperors hoarded them. The Vatican commissioned rosaries made entirely of them. They weren't decorations, they were declarations of power, of purity, of possession. Then, without fanfare, the price collapsed. The year was 1893. On the quiet shores of Japan, a man named Kokichi Mikimoto introduced a technique that changed everything. Pearl cultivation. By implanting a small bead into an oyster and managing its environment, one could produce a round, lustrous pearl on demand. And not just one, tens of thousands, per year. By the mid-20th century, the market was flooded. Cultured pearls were indistinguishable to the naked eye. Jewelry houses embraced them, consumers accepted them, and investors withdrew. Natural pearls didn't decline. They disappeared. Auction houses stopped featuring them regularly. Retailers abandoned them as impractical. Even insurance firms refused full-value coverage due to a lack of verifiable supply. Today, fewer than 1 in 10,000 pearls sold is genuinely natural. The ocean is no longer the source. The lab is. And for the few surviving gems, hidden in antique collections or royal vaults, their stories have outlived their trade value. They are symbols, not assets. History, not investment. The world moved forward. The ocean stayed behind. No scandal, no deception. It was just a quiet death of rarity, replaced by replication. Natural pearl, the legacy that drowned in silence. Ranked 8th, treated Tanzanite, from velvet blue to bargain bin. In the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro lies a vein of earth that changed gemstone history. Discovered in 1967, Tanzanite was the stone the world didn't expect and couldn't forget. A crystal with color that shifted between indigo and violet, blue and burgundy, like twilight captured in mineral form. It's so rare. It came from only one place on Earth. It's so beautiful. It rivaled sapphire in prestige, and so seductive. It ignited a global rush in less than a decade. For jewelers, it was a dream. For investors, a promise. And for Tanzania, a national treasure was declared so in 2020. But brilliance, when manipulated, can turn brittle. Raw Tanzanite rarely forms with the vivid color shown in catalogs. In its natural state, the stone is often dull, yellow-brown, tinged with green or gray. To awaken its blue, it is heated. Carefully, precisely. When done right, the result is velvet. When pushed too far, it becomes something else entirely. Over the last 2 decades, a hidden race began to meet demand faster, to make stones appear deeper in color, to hide inclusions, to simulate rarity artificially. Treated Tanzanite flooded the global market. Stones with flawless color, but no character. Stones that gleamed under showcase lights and cracked under scrutiny. And worst of all, stones that were indistinguishable from synthetic lookalikes. Buyers caught on. Reports surfaced of stones being heated not once, but twice. Of coatings applied to deepen saturation. Mines are cutting corners to keep exports flowing. And when the word Tanzanite began appearing on mass-market costume jewelry, the fall was immediate. Prices dropped by 40% across wholesale markets. Collectors backed away. Major retailers moved on to cleaner trends. Spinel, tourmaline, and even lab-grown sapphire. What was once offered in velvet boxes now appeared in clearance bins. This was never a synthetic scandal. No fraud, no factory, just a rare gem exploited by its success, pushed until it fractured. Treated Tanzanite, from velvet blue to bargain bin. Ranked 7th. Blue Obsidian, the illusion that never formed. Some illusions shimmer louder than truth. In the early 2010s, a new name crept into crystal shops and digital storefronts, Blue Obsidian. It is said to be a rare volcanic relic, found in high deserts, sacred mountain valleys, or regions where tectonic heat once met spiritual flame. It was sold as ancient, marketed as protective, wrapped in the language of transformation and emotional shielding. And people listened. Yoga teachers wore it as amulets. Energy healers prescribed it for emotional trauma. TikTok creators swore it calmed panic. Influencers described it as a portal stone, linking the throat chakra to celestial clarity. It didn't matter that no geologist had ever heard of it. The myth traveled faster than science. Behind the glow, behind the price tag, lay something else entirely. Blue obsidian was never found. It was made. In reality, what masqueraded as volcanic origin was dyed industrial silica. Mass-produced, poured into molds, cooled under fluorescent lights, and sold under candlelight. Not cut from cooled lava, but shaped from melted marketing. Yet no one questioned its ancestry because it felt right. Smooth, calming, affordable. Not the crystal collectors, not the small metaphysical shops, not even some of the suppliers. The market wanted magic, and factories delivered. Then the questions began. A few gemologists looked closer. They ran light tests, searched inclusion patterns, compared to known obsidian specimens from Iceland, Mexico, and Armenia. No match, because no such natural deposit existed. The reports went public. Science called it a modern hoax. Communities on Reddit and Discord began exposing sellers. Etsy banned dozens of listings. Amazon quietly changed product names, and thousands of dollars in rare stock turned into nothing more than colored glass paperweights. Collectors felt betrayed. Healers felt misled. Resellers faced refund demands. Some fakes deceive. Some legends fade. And then, some creations were never authentic to begin with. Blue obsidian, the illusion that never formed. Ranked 6th, citrine, the sunshine that was forged in fire. Some colors soothe, some colors sell. But yellow promises joy. Citrine was never the rarest stone, yet it became one of the most beloved. Ancient Greeks carved it into talismans for harvest. Romans placed it in rings to ward off venom. By the 19th century, it had earned a new reputation as a gem of light, worn to signal optimism in the age of industrial gray. In the early 2000s, that light went mainstream. Bracelets, birthstones, wellness crystals. A sunbeam within reach. Jewelry counters praised it as natural abundance. Retailers called it the golden quartz. Energy guides said it unlocked confidence and success. And no one asked why it was so easy to find for a while. The secret behind citrine's glow? Heat. Genuine citrine does occur in rare small pockets. But most of what's sold today began life as amethyst. Purple quartz. Abundant, inexpensive, and perfect for transformation. Heated to 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, the iron shifts. The violet vanishes. And what's left mimics sunlight. To the naked eye, it looked perfect. Too perfect. For years, manufacturers offered no clarification, and customers didn't demand it. The word citrine stayed on the label, even when the stone had never been yellow underground. And because the market responded to brightness, not origin, the price kept climbing, until the labs got involved. When gemological institutions began labeling heat-treated quartz as such, the value collapsed overnight. Retailers rebranded it, baked amethyst, enhanced golden quartz, treated citrine. But the damage was already done. Collectors withdrew. Auction houses excluded it from premium lots, and jeweler associations quietly removed it from investment tier catalogs. Worse still, saturation had flooded the resale market. Thousands of customers who once believed they owned something rare now held what some referred to as sun-colored filler. Even metaphysical communities shifted. Practitioners began favoring natural heliodor, yellow sapphire, or golden topaz. Stones that didn't require transformation to shine. Stones that hadn't been pulled from heat but from depth. No scandal, no fraud. It was a subtle erosion of belief in rarity, value, and light that didn't come from fire. Citrine, the sunshine forged in fire, faded when the glow proved too easy to replicate. Ranked 5th, Moissanite, the rival that shattered its own reflection. Some rivals come from across borders. Others are born in laboratories. Moissanite arrived not as a gemstone, but as a question. What if brilliance could be engineered? What if eternity didn't need to be carbon? Initially discovered in 1893 inside a meteorite crater, the mineral was vanishingly rare in nature. But when scientists replicated pure silicon carbide, they unlocked something unique. More fire than diamond, more clarity, more ethics, and far less cost. It entered the jewelry world as a disruptor, a rebel against monopoly, a sparkle with a conscience. And for a time, it worked. Shoppers, dazzled by its brilliance, embraced it. Proposals in New York, weddings in Los Angeles, anniversaries in Seoul. Moissanite was sold as independence from the diamond cartel, a sparkle not drenched in conflict but in clarity. But brilliance, when pushed too far, becomes something else. Gemologists noticed first. The stone's double refraction, a visual light splitting, made it too fiery. Under magnification, it danced chaotically, shimmering with unnatural intensity. To the trained eye, it looked exaggerated, synthetic, too perfect, and therefore suspect. Then came lab-grown diamonds. Around 2018, the true rival arrived. Not a simulant, but the real thing. Physically identical to a mined diamond. Identical in hardness. It is indistinguishable even to gemologists without advanced instruments. Lab-grown diamonds fell in price by half, then by half again. And suddenly, buyers who once saw moissanite as the ethical choice moved on. By 2023, moissanite's value had dropped by over 60%. Its resale market evaporated. Retailers pivoted toward offering only diamonds, mined or lab-grown. And the once promised alternative became an echo. Too bright, too available. It's too obviously artificial. Moissanite didn't lose because it lied. It lost because truth evolved faster than it could catch up. Moissanite, the rival that shattered its reflection. Ranked fourth, mystic topaz, the rainbow that peeled off. Rainbows don't last, especially the ones manufactured in silence. Mystic topaz burst onto the scene like a miracle, a gemstone wearing all colors at once: violet shadows, emerald bursts, amber fire. Each facet is a prism, each angle is a new secret, and all of it layered over a single truth. The gem beneath was colorless. What once was white topaz, clean, blank, unremarkable, was transformed through a process known only to physics and polishers. A whisper-thin coating is applied in vacuum chambers using titanium or niobium. Invisible to touch, irresistible to the eye. From QVC showcases to bridal sets, the name Mystic promised enchantment. And for a few years, it delivered. At its peak, Mystic Topaz was everywhere. Low cost, high sparkle. A rainbow ready for mass production. Jewelry chains marketed it as rare optical magic. Lifestyle influencers declared it soul reactive. Metaphysical shops called it the mood stone for the new era. And buyers, entranced by the swirling color, rarely asked where the color came from. Only that it changed. But magic, once peeled back, rarely keeps its price. The downfall began where most illusions end: in use. The coating scratched. Everyday wear rubbed the rainbow thin. Exposure to chemicals or heat caused the color to fog, dull, or vanish altogether. And when customers realized the color wasn't born in stone, but sprayed on like paint, confidence collapsed. Retailers were flooded with returns. Forums lit up with warnings. Gemologists issued advisories. Surface coating, not permanent. And suddenly, Mystic Topaz, once the darling of modern jewelry, became a cautionary tale. By 2020, most high-end sellers had removed it entirely. No longer offered in engagement lines, no longer seen in investment sets, no longer trusted. What remained were clearance bins, unsold inventory, and buyers with rings that no longer shimmered. Mystic Topaz didn't vanish because of rarity. It vanished because the illusion couldn't hold up to reality. Surface-deep brilliance, factory-born color, beauty that washed away with time. Mystic Topaz, the rainbow that peeled off. Rank third, low-grade natural diamonds. The empire that fell to science. There was a time when any diamond, no matter how flawed, still meant forever. Cloudy, included, yellowed, misshapen. As long as it was natural, it had value. A piece of earth pulled from the dark. Proof of time. Proof of pressure. Proof of permanence. For decades, the global diamond trade thrived not on perfection, but on perception. Top-tier gems dazzled auctions, but lower-grade diamonds, VS2s, SI1s, even I2s, quietly filled engagement rings, earrings, and anniversary sets. They weren't beautiful, but they were diamonds. Until science caught up. In just a few short years, the old empire cracked. Lab-grown diamonds, genuine carbon crystals formed under precise conditions, entered the market. Same hardness, same chemical structure, same sparkle. But without the scars of nature or the cost of excavation. And when the technology scaled, when prices dropped 50%, then 70%, a new truth emerged. Flawed natural diamonds could no longer compete because flawless, lab-grown stones were now cheaper. The fallout was swift. Retailers deprioritized low-grade natural stock. Inventory marked as included or off-color sat unsold for quarters. Consumers, once swayed by the word natural, began asking instead, what looks better? What costs less? What will last longer? And the answer, again and again, was synthetic. Worse yet, resale markets collapsed. Pawn shops slashed estimates. Wholesalers refused buybacks. Wedding sets from just 5 years prior, once appraised at thousands, now fetched hundreds. Even mined diamonds with GIA certificates saw bids evaporate when clarity fell below a threshold. The mystique had shifted, the aura had faded, and the prestige was gone, mined, graded, certified, and still left behind. Low-grade natural diamonds, the empire that fell to science. Ranked second, glass-filled ruby, the bloodstone that bled too much. Few stones carried the weight of history like ruby. It wasn't just a gem, it was blood crystallized, the heartbeat of emperors, the covenant of kings. In Burma, warriors carried it under the skin. In India, it was offered to the gods. In Europe, it passed between dynasties like a red thread of power. No gem meant more, or cost more, than ruby at its best. But in the early 2000s, something strange happened. Suddenly, flawless rubies flooded the market. Large, fiery, priced far below expectation. Dealers said they came from new sources. Wholesalers whispered about discovered stock. Collectors, lured by price and perfection, bought unthinkingly. But beneath the fire were cracks. Literally. These weren't rubies in the classical sense. They were the broken corpses of corundum, too flawed to facet, too damaged to polish. But then came glass, specifically lead-rich glass, heavy, clear, and molten. When heated, it invaded every fracture. The stone's shattered anatomy was filled, masked, and rebuilt. And what emerged looked, to the untrained eye, divine. The problem wasn't the look, it was a lie. These stones weren't rubies. They were composites. Part gem, part glue. One drop of acid dulled them. A jeweler's wheel could strip them. A wedding day slip could break them. But still, they sold, by the kilo. Then came the reckoning. In 2008, laboratories spoke. The GIA changed its reporting standards. Glass-filled ruby became a warning, not a label. Custom seizures followed in Europe, in the US, in India. Thousands of carats were impounded. Dozens of lawsuits were filed. Retailers were forced to issue refunds. Wholesalers retracted shipments. Auction houses redlined entire categories of ruby inventory. And collectors who once believed they held treasure realized they held colored fracture. What was once valued at thousands per carat now struggled to sell at 10. This was not a case of fraud in the shadows. This was fraud in full sunlight, packaged, polished, and passed as truth. An illusion is so convincing that even professionals fell for it. And when it broke, So did trust in the word ruby itself. Forged in fire, healed with glass, destroyed by truth. Glass-filled ruby, the bloodstone that bled too much. In first place, Andesine, the red mirage that shattered a market. It began like a myth, no scandal, no press release, just a glow. A red that flickered like an ember caught in a crystal. Not ruby, not spinel, not garnet. Softer, stranger. The kind of red that didn't ask for attention. It demanded reverence. They called it Andesine, said to be born from the earth's silence, not its violence. Whispers traced its origin to Tibetan monasteries. Remote, sacred, unreachable. A place where color was a form of worship and gemstones were gifts for gods. No photos of mine, no export data, no gemological maps, just stories. And in the gemstone world, a good story is gold. Dealers rushed in. Auction houses labeled it as next generation red feldspar. Private collectors cleared vault space. Even cautious gemologists held back their doubts, because no one wanted to be the one who questioned the next miracle. And for a moment, Andesine was a miracle. It slipped into rings, graced museum displays. It found its way into catalogs beside Paraíba, Alexandrite, and even Burmese ruby. It became desire disguised as a mineral, until desire turned to doubt. Gemologists in Tokyo, Zurich, Bangkok, Tucson ran tests. The results aligned. Again, again, again. These weren't Tibetan treasures. They were diffusion-treated labradorites cooked in copper and dyed from the inside out. Natural only in form. Synthetic in the soul. The illusion wasn't just visual, it was institutional. Sellers had certified them. Labs had graded them. Buyers had paid millions. And now, no one wanted to speak, but the silence couldn't hold. The fall came fast, faster than any gem market had seen in decades. Price collapsed overnight, from $1,200 per carat to under $15. Inventories froze, vaults closed, dealers refused returns, collectors demanded accountability, but there was none. No company to sue. There is no miner to name, no mine to find. It's just a ghost trail of invoices. Stones sold through 5 hands before truth caught up. In a silence no one dared break, because everyone had played a part. Andesine didn't die in a scandal. It died in a whisper. It was never rare, never sacred, never Tibetan, just copper, just heat, just the perfect lie, in the ideal color. Andesine, the red mirage that shattered a market and reminded an entire industry what happens when beauty sells faster than truth. Some gemstones lost their value because they were flawed, others because they were faked, but most fell for one reason. People wanted the story more than the science. Value becomes fragile in a world where brilliance can be engineered and rarity can be manufactured in a furnace dial. Trust becomes transactional. Beauty becomes negotiable. These stones still shine. Their fire hasn't dimmed, but that fire tells a different story now. Not of prestige, but of persuasion. A tale not carved into crystal, but whispered into price tags and auction catalogs. Because in the end, it wasn't just the stones that broke, it was belief, it was silence. It was the cost of not asking the second question. So the next time a gem claims to be rare, ancient, or one of a kind, ask what made it shine and what made it stop. Even legends, after all, can be lab-grown. Let us know which resonates with you in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.